We are back again. Another fun-filled episode of that Main Street Randyland YouTube channel. Hooray, you lucky people. What shall we talk about today? I don't know. Well, you know, it's the end of the season and people are saying, when am I going down to Florida? Well, I can't get away, you know, because I don't fly. You know, I flew many times when I was young. I made a decision when I was a late teen, still in high school, and I had a couple bad flights, and I said I will never set foot on an airplane again, and I've held true to that for 40 years. So 40 plus years when you stop and think about it. But be that as it may, in my lifetime, I flew at least 35 times on jets, going to Florida on vacation to be back in time for school. But one time, just like an I Love Lucy episode, my mother couldn't get up in time, and my father's screaming, we're going to miss the plane. We had to hurry from Short Hills down the roads to try to get, to Newark Airport. We're going to miss the plane. He's driving like a maniac. We get to the airport, parking the cars, and trying to get the luggage in. And, of course, we missed the airplane. Because my mother couldn't get up out of bed in time, so we missed the airplane. So what are you going to do? So they're trying to figure out at the counter, what can we do? So they flew us by helicopter, just like I Love Lucy. They flew us from a helicopter over to Kennedy Airport to catch a plane that was going to be leaving there in 40 minutes. And then we had to run from the helicopter, almost like you see at MASH, where you're holding your head down because the choppers are going over your head and all the dirt is flying up in your air. And we're running to the helicopter to go over to Kennedy, and then we're running to the airplane. I mean, who does this stuff in their life? I mean, really, people have such normal lives. It has never been a normal situation for me since the time I was born. So, these absurd abnormalities are just everyday experiences in the life of the Randy. This is the way it is. So what are we talking about airplanes for? Because we're over here standing by my Sega Helicopter game. So when I saw my helicopter, I instantly thought of having to run like a lunatic to get the helicopter at Newark Airport to go over to Kennedy. So, I mean, oh my God, what are you going to do? Well, they made helicopter versions few different ways. They made a helicopter trainer, by Midway, and I think they made Whirly Bird by Midway, and Sega made their helicopter version. And, of course, they had to have something special. So they have two propellers on that helicopter. Now, it's a little hard to see in there because it's not lit up, but the front one is red. That's easy. But behind it is blue. See the helicopter in there? You got your red propeller, you got your blue propeller. Now, interestingly enough, you have all these landing pads around there. You have London, Paris, Rome, Tokyo, New York, and Rio. Now, the whole concept of this game is to land on the different cities on their landing pad. So there's obviously a sensor in there, and it has to be magnetic reed switches so that when the airplane or the helicopter lands on the pad in the right spot, it would trigger the switch that it's underneath through the magnetic fields from the magnets underneath the helicopter, you see? Now, the helicopter is held by a balance rod with a weight on the back so that it's going to go down, but it's not going to crash down, and the blades don't have to, really, really crazily have to lift to get that heavy helicopter up because it's on a balance rod. And you have two controls. You have your rear control, which very coordinatedly is a blue knob to go with the blue propeller. You see that? And then you have your red knob for the front control to go with your red propeller. And by energizing your propellers and your speeds of your propellers, you raise your helicopter up and you tilt your helicopter so that you can go forward or you can go backwards in order to land on the next city. Well, how do you know which is the next city? Those pads light up. So the machine had a preset program as far as the order in which those cities were going to light up, and it would start with one, then it would go to another one, and the next one is likely not going to be just right over. You're probably going to have to go to the other side of the machine and land over there and back and forth to make it interesting. So it says 10 seconds before the game is over, red light on the helicopter will flash. So there's a red light on the helicopter. You see it right in the middle? It looks like it's yellow, but that's obviously going to light up red when it lights up. And that'll flash right on the helicopter. Landing in the correct position as shown below heliport light will go off and score the register. So you see, this is the wrong position. You see how my front wheel is in the center and the back wheel is over here? That's not good enough. You have to have the correct position for scoring each wheel on either side, because that magnet is right in the middle and you want to land it exactly on the spot. So if you land over here, you're not going to trigger it. You're not going to get your score. So where do you get your score? Over here. Got your score reels, your traditional, flipping score reels of the day. And, it's just wonderful. All movements of a helicopter can be controlled by front and rear control levers. Correct landing in flashing heliport turns out flashing light scores. Look at that. And it was only a quarter. But when are we talking about when this was a quarter? This has to be certainly no later than very early 70s. It's probably late 60s. So, we could look that up, but I know I played it when I was a kid, and I was still playing games in the arcade in the early 70s, so it's possible it was early 70s, but it would have had to have been really, 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 really early, because I started playing Fascination in 74, and then I didn't go to the arcades anymore. So I'm guessing it's late 60s, 68, 69, maybe even a 67. But here it is, the Sega Helicopter with their traditional, wonderfully Formica cabinets that they did so well, and they even have some, special designs in the Formica on these things. It's in great shape here. It has 3 marquee signs. See on the top here? Helicopter. It's the same as this one, Sega Helicopter. And I know this one came from the Carousel Arcade. How do I know that? Well, there's two tricks here. First of all, you see that lock? That's a round cylinder ace lock, and it doesn't fit any of my keys. So I've never actually run this game in any of my arcades. So that has to be from the Carousel Arcade, because a lot of times Mike Carbone didn't take the locks off when he gave me the games. And I sold, the lock was still on it. He didn't have time. But I remember when I worked on this game in the arcade that somebody had changed the light bulbs on the top. Now you see, under that plastic, there are light bulbs to illuminate the field down on the bottom. See how that back artwork is so nice? Look at that. Beautiful. Well, the top has illumination in there. So how do you get to it? Well, you have to remove the screws on the top to get to these marquees and lift the plastic out in order to get into the lights. But whoever did it in the Carousel Arcade, and it wasn't me, it really wasn't. They didn't put it in right. They put it in upside down. So it says Sega Helicopter, but it's upside down. And I remember that was upside down when I was a mechanic working there as a kid. So I just left it that way, because to me, that identifies this machine from my memories of having worked in the Carousel Arcade, and that's where it came from in Seaside Heights. So the Sega Helicopter, the Sega Helicopter is the most desirable one amongst collectors. They like to have helicopter games, but the Sega Helicopter, that's the one that is the most collectible. And of course, I have 2. You can't have just one. You have 2, you see. And I remember when I built these frames, see these wooden frames? They are custom built just to go around to fit for the Sega Helicopter to fit in there, so that I could have something on top that was heavy. And I would utilize my airspace above it, and I could slide my machine out without putting it right on the machine. I wonder what this is. Looks like a big marquee of some kind. Oh, look what we have here. It's a Penny Falls. You see it? Penny Falls coin pusher. That's an insert sign. That's the, is that the second model? The first one is up here, isn't it? Yes, originally they called it New Penny Falls. You see that? So this is the Penny Falls. You would think that New Penny Falls came after Penny Falls, but I think it was the other way around. I think it was New Penny Falls was first and then Penny Falls, but that was the insert for the sign. But of course I have them both. Yes, I have a Penny Falls. But when I built this frame, I built it so I could have another helicopter game on the other side. You see? Now, Because I wanted to have variety in my museum, although it was built to fit the Sega Helicopter, on the other side, I'm sure I don't have a Sega Helicopter. What could it be? It's a Midway whirlybird. And he is in the spot where also a Sega Helicopter would fit. So, yes, I have two Midway whirlybirds. You see, the control handles are a little different on that. You have your tilt and you have your propeller. There's only one propeller on the helicopter on all the other helicopter games other than the Sega. So you get to tilt the helicopter a little bit in order to make the fan blow it, to make it move back and forth. Same idea, but it doesn't have the magnetic reed switches on that one. It has little posts that you go around and you have to touch. Same idea, the one that's lit is the one you want to touch, and then it would move on to the next one. So this episode is about helicopters. It's about missing airplanes when you're a kid and having to take the helicopter like Lucy Ricardo because you missed it, and you have to go to Kennedy Airport and run like a lunatic like MASH with your head down so you don't get hit by the chopper blades, and then you get your Sega helicopters and, you know, working at the Carousel Arcade and all that stuff. So all this stuff is memories. They're memory triggers, certainly to me, because I have an associated memory with every single piece of equipment, because I'm the one who worked there and I worked on it and I acquired it and I bought it and I dragged it across and I had to get a truck to move it and all these things. And when I think of all the things I've done in my life, it's really absurd. But I've done them and I'm still doing them, and I gotta love my Sega Helicopter, and someday I'd love to have a place large enough where I could have both of my Sega Helicopters right next to each other, and then I could have my Midway whirlybirds right next to them, and I could just go right on down the line. The last time I used my Midway whirlybirds was in the Big Top Carnival of Fun multi-level extravaganza and amusement arcade museum right here in Wildwood. Well, that's the story. The Sega Helicopter, we talked about the whirlybirds, and it's all fun stuff as I share my experiences and my machines with you here at the Main Street Randyland YouTube channel. So we'll see you later, guys. Don't be late for your airplane, or you have to take a helicopter.